Now, Ramon wasn't obviously the only thing that was talked about at Gundy's press conference today. He talked a lot about the running back core with Justice Hill there, obviously, and Jeff Carr, but behind that, not too many options, and also on the defensive line where, in the exact opposite way, you've got far too many options. So here's Gundy's thoughts on all of that.
Ball a lot more in the spring. His role was diminished last year because of the emergence of Justice. And then Chris was here. Obviously, Chris is gone now. And so his body's changed. And I would love for him to develop in that role. You got a couple guys that will be right there on his tail that have had a really good offseason and have redshirted and have developed with J-Ron and LD. So it'll be interesting. And one thing about the running back position, it goes all the way back to what Coach Jones used to say. You can find out real quick if you got real running backs. You can put them in there and let them go. And when they get tired and they get banged around a little bit, the real ones will stay in there and fight. The ones that aren't real backs, they fade pretty quick.
Mike, you lose some guys on the defensive line, but it doesn't seem like that's a real area of big concern for you. I know Brailford obviously coming back after he was maybe going to start last year. What do you like about the D-line situation right now?
We have 9 guys on the defensive line that power clean over 315. We have 9 guys on the defensive line that bench press over 350. 5 of them over 400. And we have 9 guys on the defensive line that all squat more than 450 pounds. And that's what I like about them. They're all somewhat mature. Their strength levels are very high. They seem to run well. Their attitudes are good. But I think we're back into that role that we had where we can play a pretty solid 2 deep and keep those guys fresh. And I think in this league, that's really important in the success and the duration of trying to make it through all the way up through November. It was like Barry's article this morning in basketball. In this league, your defense gets beat up in November. Just like our schedule, we got the best basketball league in the country, but nobody knows it because they beat each other up for 2 months. That's what happens to defensive guys in football. And, of course, everybody in the country says, well, you're no good on defense or whatever. Well, they're in a track meet every week, too. So that's what I like about our defensive line. Hopefully, Brailford, who's been turned loose, will be able to develop, sustain the pounding, because we really liked him in the Sugar Bowl. We thought he played as well as any defensive lineman we had in the Sugar Bowl, and then we lost him last year to that stress fracture. And if he's up and running, he should really give us an added lift. His body is really developed. He looks good, and he's mature at this point. Quarterback experience. We were a little more experienced then at the running back spot with Joe Randall. He was on that team, right? Justice is a good player, but obviously not as experienced as Joe. Had a group of wideouts then, and we had Blackman, who's, Washington could be comparable to him either way, arguably. The good news is maybe better on defense than we were then. But those teams were really good at forcing turnovers, which allowed us to get more opportunities, and then we'd get in a track meet, we could outscore you. And a lot of what we do in this league is coming that anyway. So we talk about that, the strategy of based on what our personnel is and what we think we can do in all 3 phases. So there are a lot of similarities. Hope it turns out that way.
What do you like about this defense compared to that one?
I just think we have more depth. I think that we've recruited longer. I think that our culture's in place, and we have more depth than we did then. What John said earlier, we got to hit on a couple corners. We got to get a couple guys that we can trust that can play. Now, we're going to play multiple guys, but at some point you got to have guys in there in key situations that are fresh that you trust. Because as we mentioned now, you got to be able to cover a little bit in this league, and so we've got to develop some guys. I think we're going to be much better at those 2 positions in October, middle of October, than we are September 1.
That'll do it for me here in GIA and Heritage Hall, and a good day for the media, at least. I got to watch a little bit of warm-ups the first day of spring ball, and got to talk with Gundy, which is always worthy of a quote or two. So that'll do it for me inside Gallagher Ive Arena. For PFB, I'm Hayden Barber.